office hours, or email them and ask them a question. Another thing that you can do to really make a positive impression on a faculty member is learn about what kind of research they're doing. And you can do that at home. You can go to the library website, just library.ttu.edu, and you can look up their last name. You can find out what kind of research they're doing. You can read the work that they're doing. If you came to, I guarantee, if you came to a faculty member's office hours, having read some of their research, having read some stuff that they published with a question about some stuff that they published, they would be very impressed with you. Note, this is their passion in life. That you are showing an interest in their passion in life is a good way to make a positive impression on a faculty member. Another thing that you want to do, and that you're a part of the Center for Undergraduate Research is a good start, is you want to take advantage of any and all research opportunities that you might have as an undergraduate student. If there's any poster you can present, present it. Try to begin thinking of your papers as possible presentations, possible poster presentations, possible conference presentations. Think about what opportunities you can have to be helping a professor or a doc student who's finishing things up. Any kind of opportunities that you can take advantage of, do them. Because these are things that are going to look really great when you're applying to graduate school. The amount of showing a prospective department that you know how to do research is huge. So you really want to do that. Now, one of the things that you want to do, now that you've kind of gotten in with your professor, that they know who you are, you know who they are, you have discovered that they don't bite, that they're willing to communicate with you. If they feel like you're a good student who's interested and engaged in what they're doing, every single faculty member on this campus has a network around the nation and around the world. They go to professional conferences every year. They go to, they publish, they have colleagues at other universities. So, this is a really good way to network without having to travel. If a faculty member, my husband is an English professor, and one of the things that he does when he's got a student who he's been working with, and if the program here is not really a good fit, like the person is really interested in Faulkner and nobody's really studying the literature of the 20th century Deep South, he'll refer him to his colleagues at Ole Miss, which is the Center for Faulkner Studies. It's things like that that you want to think about. So this is something that your faculty members expect. One of the things that a lot of faculty members say is unusual about Texas Tech students is they don't come to their office hours. They don't come see them. They don't email them unless there's a problem. So, you can really distinguish yourself by talking to your faculty members, making contacts, and minding their professional contacts. There's some things that you should work on in advance, and this is one of those things that I have to work on with myself also. Most departments, applying to graduate school is a two-stage process. Most departments, the way the application process works is that the graduate school will take the very general stuff, especially if you're going for a large research institution. The graduate school is going to take the big stuff. We're going to take your application. We're going to take your application fee. We're going to take your transcripts. We're going to take your GRE or your GMAT, should your department require it. And we process it so that the departments can see all of that information in one very complete chunk. We also verify your transcripts and make sure that you're eligible for graduate education. So we do the general stuff. Tech has about 160 master's and doctoral programs, which doesn't exactly include the interdisciplinary programs where you can build your own program. So, the difference between what makes a really great physics doctoral student and what makes a really great English lit student is kind of different. Actually, it's wildly different. So we can't really make those fine-grained decisions. So the department is going to need some stuff too. Now, some of the stuff that they need are things like, and these are going to vary by department. So you're going to really want to talk to the advisor in your department. You want to know who your advisor is in your prospective department. And there are a lot of ways that you can find out who the graduate advisor is. One way is usually they're fairly prominently placed on the website as the contact, or sometimes the contact person will be like Health, Exercise, and Sports Sciences has an email address that's like hessadvisor.ttu.edu. That's the graduate advisor, and they'll get back to you. Also, most universities have someone like me. My title is recruiting coordinator, but most universities in graduate admissions offices have people like me who are very, very willing to help introduce you, help connect you. So, you want to make sure that you know the graduate advisor who will help you with the deadlines. You want to really study the department's website, and you want to make sure that you understand when your deadlines are. Because for the graduate school here, for domestic students, the graduate school doesn't have deadlines. The graduate school takes things, all year round. Departments have deadlines. This is one of those times where that little cheesy aphorism, time is money. Oh, you can move all that stuff, that's okay. This is one of those cheesy times where that cheesy aphorism, time is money, is true. Departments have a finite amount of funding that's available. Many departments only accept students who submit their applications by a certain point in time. So if anything is outstanding, you won't get it. They won't look at your application at all. If you have one letter of recommendation that just hasn't quite made it in yet, they won't consider you at all. So you want to make sure that the deadline for the department is the deadline that you have written on your mirror in red dry erase marker, or whatever you need to use. That's the deadline. So you want to make sure that you understand the deadlines. Departments want to make sure that you are a good fit for them and they are a good fit for you. I look at this as matchmaking. You're committing a significant portion of your life and your time and your money to this program. And they're committing a lot of time and money to you. So we want to make sure that this is a good fit. If it's not a good fit, you're not going to be happy. Yesterday I was at a recruiting event in Socorro, New Mexico, and we had a student who was interested in paleontology. Well, we have anthropology, and there is sort of an archaeology concentration as a part of it, but we don't have paleontology. I mean, we just don't. I don't know why we don't. We don't have it. And so, I could have really pushed the archaeology program as a possibility for her, but it's not a good fit. I mean, it's not, the archaeology that is done through the anthropology department is pretty much strictly, the remains of civilizations, not dinosaurs. So it really wouldn't be a good fit. And so, that's the thing that you have to understand is if it's not going to be a good fit, it's not going to be a good fit, and that's okay. You just want to make sure that some of the things that departments are going to want, departments generally want a resume, some will want a writing sample, some will want a statement of purpose, most will want, most will want those kinds of things. With the letters of recommendation, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail in a moment, most departments want 3 letters of recommendation. what you want to think about is think about the kinds of things that you can work on in advance. I like to think about resume building is like tending a garden. You know, it's a lot easier to tend a garden if you kind of go in pretty regularly, you know, once a week, every time you present a paper, every time something about your personal life changes, every time, you know, you have won an academic award. You know, update your resume, update your statement of purpose a little bit. You know, make sure these things are relevant. It's a lot easier than, oh my gosh, my grad school application is due in a week and I have a resume that's 5 years old. So, you know, it's a lot easier to, you know, just kind of maintain than it is to start over completely. One of the things you also want to think about with your statement of purpose is clarity. You want to be really clear about what you want to do with your graduate program. You need to make sure that they understand what your goals are and that your goals mesh with the department's goals. So you want to be reading the website, you want to be really paying attention. And there are a lot of tools to help you with this stage. Our university has a writing center in the first floor on the west side of the English building. They will help you with their resume. There are people who are trained to help you with your resume. I've taken my resume there, have gotten some great feedback. They'll help you with your statement of purpose. They'll help you with your writing sample. All of these things are free. I would also suggest that you contact Career Services. The website is there. Another good resource, and this is a non-tech resource, and you can just Google it rather than writing down the URL, is the Purdue OWL website. Has a lot of really good resources about writing a statement of purpose, working on your resume. It just has a lot of, it's their online writing lab. They have a lot of really good resources that are good when you're in the process of applying for things. So there's a lot of help for you. Again, timing is everything. Some departments have very rigid deadlines. Psychology departments tend to have very, very rigid deadlines. A lot of the sciences have very rigid deadlines. Engineering. Some departments have more fluid deadlines. They call it rolling admissions, which is great because you can get in even if you don't have everything in by, if you're applying for things, you don't have everything in by, mid-February, which tends to be the outside figure for most of the departments that have deadlines. Psychology, some departments in psychology have deadlines that are in December, January. But the thing with rolling admission is if you apply late and you're admitted late, you generally don't get an assistantship, you generally don't have scholarship funding available. So you want to find out when they make their decisions about scholarships and about assistantships. Here's the thing about assistantships. If you're a Texas resident, if you're not a Texas resident at Tech, and this can vary from school to school, if you're not a Texas resident, having an assistantship or at least $1,000 scholarship will qualify you for in-state tuition. Now, if you have an assistantship, a scholarship won't do this, but an assistantship will. An assistantship will qualify you for a waiver that will waive about half of your fees. So, in-state tuition is about, I think, $3,500 for 9 hours, which is full-time. Well, if you have an assistantship, 20 hours a week, that cuts it in about half. So you pay about $1,700 per semester. And that keeps your costs down. That keeps your student loan issues down. And you also get paid by the department in addition to it. You don't get paid a lot, but you get paid. So you want to make sure deadlines are vitally important here. Okay, back to the optimal timeline thing. I don't say this to scare you. Lots of people apply at the last minute. I don't recommend that because I think that if you give yourself plenty of time, you're able to put together the most competitive application process packet, and you're able to do this process in a way that's less stressful for you you're not sweating a deadline. And I've done that before, and it's not fun. You're at the last minute. You're just not sure. You're just throwing things out there and hoping that it's okay. And that's not really how you want to make a big life decision. So, you want to start. I like to think about, in an ideal world, it would be fantastic if you were looking at applying to graduate school a year before you want to actually start graduate school. So say you want to start fall 2013, this coming fall you would start getting your stuff together. So you'd take the GRE, GMAT, August, September. The GRE is for, the GMAT is for people who are interested in business. The GRE is pretty much for everybody else. In September, you want to make sure that you're making contacts. Think about make a real effort to make contacts with faculty members. October, start getting your letters of recommendation. If you need to retake the GRE or GMAT, this is a good time to do it. I know that you're going to have all kinds of fantastic tips about the GRE. I have one tip. Before you schedule your GRE appointment, look at the syllabi for your semester. Because how many of you have ever had one of those semesters where everything was due in the same week? Big projects, massive things. Yeah, don't take the GRE that week. Just don't. Check your syllabi. Just make sure that that's not the week that you were registered for the GRE. Sometimes, summers are a great time to take it. There are not so many people, just take it at a time when you're able to study, you're able to prepare, you're able to take a course if you need to, just whatever you need to do. November, follow up on your letters of recommendation. Make sure that you've got everything together. Make sure that you're ready. Just double check that you've got everything together for your deadline. The process of applying to both the graduate school and the department is one of those things that you do sort of simultaneously. You start sending things in, and they start accumulating, and the departments and the graduate school starts accumulating a file for you. So, you don't have to send everything in one tremendous chunk. It's best that you send the things that the department requires directly to the department, and the stuff that the grad school requires directly to the grad school. International students will frequently just send us everything, and we sort it and send it out, but it's better just to send it directly to the department that's requiring it. I'm a big advocate of writing thank you notes. I know that this is considered a little bit old-fashioned by a number of you, but there's nothing that takes the place of a handwritten note saying thank you for taking some time. Kind of quickly, because I know that we're running out of a little bit, we're running close to time on the part. With requesting letters of recommendation, I'm discovering that people are a little afraid of the letter of recommendation process. Rule number one to think about, this is a part of a faculty member's job. This is what they expect to be doing. They expect to spend a certain amount of time writing letters of recommendation for students. It may not be the most exciting part of their job, but, whatever. They anticipate writing letters of recommendation. So, keep that in mind. This is part of their job. They're supposed to write letters for students. It's one of the things that they do. When you're requesting a letter of recommendation for graduate school, you need either faculty recommendations in a field that kind of connects with the program. So say you're one of those people who's going from kind of a different field. You want to try to find a faculty member who can speak to your research experience, your communication skills, things like that. You want to ask a faculty member that you're asking for a letter of recommendation, can you write a strong letter of recommendation for me? I would recommend asking that specifically. I know it's a hard phrase to say the first time, but it is a much better thing for you to do. A occasionally we get letters of recommendation that come through our office for scholarship processing. And I occasionally am a part of sort of the beta screening on that. And sometimes we see letters of recommendation that were like, well, this person apparently was in my 2306 class 2 years ago. I don't really remember very much about them, although looking back on my records, I see they made a B+. I'm sure they would be an excellent addition to your graduate school. This is not a strong letter of recommendation. The faculty member does not know who this person is. They can't say anything about their research. They can't say anything about their communication skills. They can't say anything about how they've grown as a scholar. They can't say anything about how they have. That says nothing. That basically says they took a class, they got a B+, which anybody could find from the transcript. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. You're asking for a strong letter of recommendation. And if a faculty member says no, it's not the most fun no you'll ever have, but treat this like a gift, because you would get that letter. And it's what's called in academia, it's called damning by faint praise. You want the good letter. You want the specific letter. One of the ways that you can get that specific letter is I recommend scanning in all of the projects that you work on with the faculty members' comments. You can do it over there in the library with those scanners. Save it to a dedicated USB drive and just save everything to that. And that way, when you're putting together your packet to get your letters of recommendation, you can say, hey, I was in your 3364 class last fall. I'm not sure if you mentioned that you could write a strong letter of recommendation. I saved the paper that I wrote for your class with your comments, just to kind of jog your memory. Here's the link to where the letter of recommendation site is, or if you're applying to a school that wants a physical letter sent through the mail, here's a self-addressed stamped envelope. This is something that departments kind of see as a test, by the way. If a department requests that their letters of recommendation be submitted online and you send them a snail mail thing, that says, I don't pay attention to directions. And that's not what you want to say to your department right as you're starting off. So you want to make sure that you're submitting the letters of recommendation in the format that the department requires. Some departments have a form. If they have a form, give them a form. This is part of you've talked to the graduate advisor, you've explored the website, you understand what the department wants from you. Now this is a lot to do. It's a lot to do, but a lot of us do it. Millions of people do this every semester, so you're in good company, and there are a lot of people who can help you. Your graduate advisors here can help you. The graduate advisors in your department can help you. Your current faculty members can help to introduce you to people in their field. The other thing is people like me. Every university has somebody who does recruiting or something that sounds like recruiting. If you're not sure who is doing it, call the Office of Graduate Admissions for the university that you're applying to and say, I'm interested, I'm a prospective student, I'm interested in the program. Usually it's can I speak with somebody about kind of connecting with the department. If you're interested in programs at Tech, that would be me. You'll notice my contact information is on the bottom. I've had a couple of people from some of these sessions who have wanted appointments made with departments. I'm happy to make as many appointments for you with graduate advisors and departments here as you would like, because I'm happy to make the introduction, take you over, whatever you need to do. So please don't hesitate. Any questions? Yes?
Do you have any tips for those people who are going into completely different fields than their major?
Well, a couple of tips. One, that's not that uncommon. I went from, my master's degree is in English literature, and my doctoral program is in higher education administration. I would say go for it. The weirdest one that I've seen, there have been a couple of weirder ones that I've seen. One of my former graduate assistants went from environmental toxicology to education psychology, which is a totally different mindset. It was really fun to watch her kind of transition from one to the other. But you know, the psych was her passion. There are a lot of skills that, this is a point where you really want to be talking to the graduate advisor and talk about the kind of skills that they want to see that you can display. Your statement of purpose is a good place for you to explain these skills. You know, despite the fact that I'm coming from electrical engineering, and I'm going to get my master's in English literature, I have been reading extensively and writing and, you know, doing these things. And you'll note from my writing exam, I have always taken English classes, you know, find some connection between the department. Now, one thing that is really good about graduate programs is there are some things that all programs are looking for. All programs are looking for critical thinking skills. All programs are looking for clear communication skills. And all programs are looking for, I have the ability to do research. So, you know, it's not uncommon at all. There's a possibility that depending on how far out it is, how far out your experiences are, there may be some leveling required. For example, if I were to say, suddenly decide, I want to be a civil engineer, I'm applying for civil engineering, despite the fact that I have never had physics at all, leveling courses would be required. In fact, if I wanted to be an engineer, many leveling courses would be required. But, you know, it's one of those things. We can talk, if you would like, we can talk about that. Other questions? And like I said, as things come up, as you're thinking about your process, please feel free to call me, email me. My office is in the basement underneath Arts and Sciences in Holden Hall. So it's we're supposed to be moving in the next few months to the administration building, fingers crossed. So if there's anything that I can help you with this process, I'm much more familiar with the grad advisors here at Tech, but I have also made calls for people at other universities. So, you know, because my philosophy is this has to be a good fit for you, or you won't be happy, you won't finish your program, and you'll waste a lot of time. So, you know, I want you to have a really good experience, and if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Yes?
So is the best way to get a hold of you by email to like set up an appointment to sit down and talk with you for a little bit?
Email or call.
Okay.
Email is better because even if I'm on the road, I recruit. Yesterday, actually, I flew in last night at 10. So email I always have, but yes, definitely don't hesitate to call me. Anything else?
Take you into a little more in depth of one of the bullet points, and that was the GRE. As she mentioned, definitely try to take it. We really kind of recommend start prepping really spring or summer of your junior year. That way, a lot of people have a lot more time in the summer. You can kind of take, start prepping then, and then that way you kind of, look a little bit towards later on in the summer, early part of the fall semester, you can take it. Tell you a little bit more about this. Make sure, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you fill this out. This is how we're going to get you entered in the raffle for the GRE book. Also, I want to tell you about a cool opportunity we have coming up on February 18th at 10 a.m. in the chemistry building. We're doing a free GRE practice test. If you haven't taken your GRE yet, if you haven't taken a practice test before, this is a great opportunity to come see what it is. Again, it's February 18th at 10 a.m. in the chemistry building. If you want to take the practice test, the easiest thing, actually I can get you registered, is on this form, just to the right of the QR code, there's a little box that says, please sign me up for a practice test. If you want to do the practice test, all you got to do is just check that box and we will get you signed up. Again, February 18th, this is Saturday, 10 a.m. chemistry building. And now I'm going to turn it over to Travis. Travis is our faculty. He teaches the GRE on-site classes here on campus, and he'll guide you through the GRE a little bit more.
How are you all doing? Have you taken the GRE before, or had any practice with it at all? Nobody? Cool. Okay. Well, as you may know, this year the GRE changed dramatically. They released a whole new series of changes. I'm going to go over the changes and what those mean for you when you study for the GRE when you actually take it. The official word is that they're starting August 1st, 2011. The GRE revised general test will replace the GRE general test, giving you the advantage of a better test experience and new types of questions to help show your readiness for graduate level work. So why do they make the changes? They changed the question types because they're trying to make the questions now more where they want to test your knowledge as opposed to whether or not you can eliminate wrong answers. It used to be there'd be 4 or 5 answer choices and one was correct. Now most questions will have multiple correct answers, so they've changed that. The GRE is also now being used for admissions to business school, so they had to change some of their question types, especially in the math section, to reflect what the business schools want. They want more application, not theory-based math. And the scoring scale previously has gotten very confusing. It was about 450 on the old scale, was 50th percentile for verbal, but about 600 was 50th percentile for quantitative. So it was hard to compare the two, and it was really hard to figure out what your score was on the scale. Especially as you get into the higher ranges, the quantitative scoring, 750 was still about 80th percentile. So it was really confusing for schools looking at it. It was hard to do really well in the quantitative section. The test type used to be computer adaptive. That would mean you would do a question. If you got it right, the next question would be harder. If you got it wrong, the next question was easier. You couldn't go back. So once you answered a question, that was the last time you saw it. That made it really high pressure for every question. I remember when I was taking it, I remember there was one question I was like, oh, I know the answer, I did it. Then about a minute later, like, oh, I was wrong. That was entirely wrong. So it made it really high pressure, and students get derailed a lot. They realize they missed one, and they get all emotional about it. So they changed that. Now it's actually multi-stage. You'll have 2 quantitative sections, and the first section is just 20 questions. You can move around in it. You can skip questions, come back to them later. And depending on how well you do in the first quantitative section, you either go to the hardest questions, medium range, or the easiest. And that will determine your score also. That makes any sense.
You
So,
said 2 sections of 20 questions each?
yeah, 2 sections of 20 questions each. Both 2 verbal and 2 quantitative. I'll go over that in a little bit more detail in a little bit. But they've changed the interface also. Now you can mark questions, so you can be like, I don't know this one right now, I know this will take a little bit to do, so I'll come back to it later. You can also review questions, which means they'll bring up all the questions 1 through 20. You can see, okay, I know I skipped these 3, these 4 have been answered, and these 4 I marked to come back later. So you can move around a lot easier now. This is what the review section page looks like. So you can sort of see, oh, I haven't looked at the last 16 questions, but these first 4 I've answered 2 and I skipped 2. There's also now a calculator on the test. Previously, you had to do all the math either in your head or on paper. There's now a calculator that does this 4 functions and a square root and transfer display. That means if, like, say you do the square root of 19, you can just transfer the display over and it'll just transfer it in there so you have to type it in. That's pretty helpful. The calculator is a useful tool, but it's also something that students tend to overuse. You don't want to be using it on every question. Most questions are still designed to where you can just do the math quickly on paper or sort of in your head. The test has gotten much longer. Previously it's 3 hours. You'd have 2 writing sections, 1 verbal section, 1 math, and then an unstored or research section. So about 3 hours. Now it's 4 hours. You'll start out with 2 writing samples. One will be, they'll give you an issue, you take a side and just argue for that side. Next one will be analyze an argument. They'll give you an argument, you have to say, what's good about this argument, what's weak, how can it be improved. Each one of those is 30 minutes. That'll be the very first thing you do in the test. Then you'll have either verbal or quantitative. You'll have 2 sections of each one of those. There'll be about 20 questions per section. For verbal, you have 30 minutes per section. So that's about a minute and a half for every question. For quantitative reasoning, you have 35 minutes. So it's a little bit more than a minute and a half. You could have an unstored section, which will be a third verbal or a third quantitative. And that one, it won't tell you it's unstored, so you have to treat them all as if they are being stored. And finally, there may be a research section. That'll be the very last one. It'll tell you it's research, and it'll be different question types, entirely new question types that are trying out. So it's about 4 hours. So it's a much longer exam, and it wears you down. You'll be exhausted by the end of it. Previously, it was scored on a scale of 200 to 800 in 10-point increments. You would get your scores immediately after the test, and then you would receive an official score report 2 to 3 weeks later. Now it's 130 to 170 in 1-point increments. They made it to where a 150 is the 50th percentile. So that's always going to be 50th percentile. They've scaled it that way. Everybody's been taking it post November 2011, so this part really doesn't apply, but you'll get your scores now immediately afterwards. You'll see unofficial scores for the quantitative and the verbal, and you'll know what those are, and then you'll receive an official score report 2 to 3 weeks later. This is a change actually that does impact, that everybody should be aware of. You used to be able to take the GRE 6 times a year, 30 days later after you take it. Now it's every 60 days you take it. So if you're thinking, I'm going to take it late September, and my application's due November 1st or December 1st, you need to be aware you can only retake it 1 more time. It used to be taken 3 or 4 more times in that time period. So now you kind of want to plan out, I know I have 2 months where I take it again, so you kind of want to plan out what your schedule is going to be like for taking it. We recommend taking it in the summer. That's like when it's the easiest. You know how much else going on, you can really study for it. Take it in the summer and then go into school. So question types. They now have reading passages on the GRE, on the new GRE. About half the questions will be based on reading passages. These can be 1 paragraph to several paragraphs. You normally will have mostly 1 paragraph and 1 longer reading section, 1 longer reading passage. There'll be 1 to 6 questions per passage. Let's go look at that. This is a 1 paragraph one. This is one of the new question types also. They're asking, what is the function of these 2 sentences in the paragraph? Like, what do they do for the argument? So, we, in the classes, would go over a lot of practice questions with these, so you understand how passages are structured and how arguments are made. This is another one of the new types, the multiple selection. If it has square boxes by it, it means there can be more than 1 right answer. To get credit, you have to get all the right answers. So, let's say 2 of these are right, you have to get both of them. If you just got 1, you don't get credit, or if you get none of them, obviously, you don't get credit. So, that's a little bit different now. Text completion. None of you did the old GRE, so that's not really relevant, but it's composed of 1 to 5 sentences. You can have 1, 2, or 3 blanks. Each blank functions independently, and there will be no credit for partially correct answers. It doesn't make sense, but here's what it looks like. So you have a blank in the sentence, and then you have several answer choices. You have to pick the correct answer choice. Which one makes this sentence make sense? Here's one with 3 blanks. Each of these blanks is independent, but they all have a structure to the paragraph. So you have to sort of be able to figure out, okay, which one's the easiest one to start off with, then go back and sort of figure out what are the other blanks need to be. We do a lot of practice with these. These are probably, students find these the hardest at the beginning, but by the end, the strategies and methods we use and the vocabulary building we do makes it really easy, actually. These questions become really easy after you've done enough of them. Sentence equivalents. These are probably the hardest ones on there. There'll be 6 answer choices. There'll be a blank in the sentence. You need to pick the 2 answer choices that make the sentence mean the same thing and have a complete, coherent structure. So, here you go. There's 1 blank, and you have to pick the 2 words in here that make the most sense, that the sentence will make sense with that, and they mean the same thing. The sentence means the same thing with either word. A lot of times they'll try to trick you by having 2 sets of synonyms in here. One will make the sentence mean nothing at all. You'll see like, oh, they're synonyms, so they have to be the right answer. No, when you have some practice, you'll understand how to avoid those. Quantitative reasoning. This has changed a lot also. It's gone to more applicability, like more stuff that if you're in math, in business school, they want to see you have the actual, you can apply the math skills behind it. There are several question types. The quantitative comparison is the one that students are always like, what is this question type? I don't understand this at all. Multiple choice is the same, and we'll go over a few of these. Let's see. This is quantitative comparison. This is a question type that you never really see outside the GRE. Basically, they give you two quantities, and they want you to figure out the relationship between the two quantities. Is quantity A always bigger? Is quantity B always bigger? Are they always equal? Or can you not tell from what information is given? This is the most confusing one at first, but honestly, they're the easiest questions on the math section. Once you learn the methods, and once you sort of play around them and do a few of them, you'll start recognizing how to do these really easily. You spend about a minute and a half on these. This is just like a normal math question. It'll give you a problem and just what's the correct answer. That's not very hard. You've all done these throughout high school and in college. This is one of the new GRE types though. It's similar to the other one, but now you have to pick all the correct answers. So this case is really easy. What number is multiple of both 2 and 3? That's really easy to do. We have harder ones, but you have to get all of them correct or you don't get credit. Then here's the fill in the blank. This is where you can use a calculator if you need to, or you just type it in using the keyboard. This is one of the new question types. So the big changes. The test type has changed, where it's now done in sections as opposed to question after question. The interface has changed to much more usable. The old one was like using did anybody use an old 1995 era Mac? That's what they were kind of like, the old Apples. The length of the test is gotten much longer, so you want to do more practice tests, and that's what we do in the classes. We do a lot of practice tests, so you build up that endurance doing 4 hours of testing. The scoring scale has gotten much more simpler and easy to understand. The retaking is different, and the GRE, the question types are now different. This part is, by now you'll all receive unofficial scores immediately after the test, so that part's not really relevant. And you'll get your official scores about 2 to 3 weeks later. Here are some useful things on Kaplan GRE Prep. The Twitter, there's updates about changes to the GRE, tips taking the GRE. You can become a fan of us on Facebook. The blog has lots of interesting stuff about the new scale, how they convert the old score to the new score, tips on how to take the GRE, practice questions and stuff. And this is the website, kaplanGRE.com/newtest. Free this for all review about what I just went over, and then the course test maker. Are there any questions? Covered a lot in a little bit of time, so yes.
On those questions that are more than one right answer,
Yes.
when you see the squares, does that mean that there is more than one right answer, or maybe?
There may be more than
Okay.
one right answer. There will be at least one. There won't be any no right answers, but there will be at least one. So it could be 1, 2, 3, or all of them. So that's what makes it hard. You don't know if there's going to be more than one or not. Any other questions? Yes?
How much does it cost to take this?
Which is that a good question? I believe it's like 160. 160?
That's like the reset as well?
For each time? No, you pay it separately each time. The one nice thing is you can, when you go in, know what schools you're going to be applying to, is you can do like 3 or 4 store reports. You can send it out to the schools. You can only do that when you're taking the test. Otherwise, it's $15 per school you're going to send it out to. So kind of know what schools you want to apply, what schools you're looking to send your stores to, and choose that when you take the test. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you have to have a bachelor degree to take GRE?
No, you can take it while you're still a student. You can take it, I mean, you should be in college, but after you graduate, you can take it while you're still a student, still working on your degree, so you don't have to have the degree at the time when you take it.
If you're planning on taking a year off from school though, and then going to grad school, I'd recommend you take the GRE while you're still in school, just because you're still in study mode, you're still used to studying, and you have all the information instead of laying off a year and then having to go back and revisit all that stuff.
Yes?
Are your classes like specific for the different sections, or does it cover everything?
Yeah, what we do is we'll have like 4 classes on math and then 4 classes on verbal. So you like, say you know verbal really well, you can sign up for just the math one, or you can sign up for both, or you can sign up for one or the other or all of them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
If I register today for a test, which is the last day I can select?
Last you can, if you register today, you can pick whenever you want to take it. I'm not really sure how far out they go. I know when I register, like you can look up to 2 or 3 months in advance. So like you can pick and allow out. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Y'all have any specific questions you have about classes, GRE, just continuous or anything, you can always email me too. My email is just nick, N-I-C-K, Daniel, D-A-N-I-E-L, @kaplan.com. Like I said, any questions about admissions, GRE, any of that good stuff, feel free to email me. Thank y'all. Turn it over to Dan.
Alright, make sure you fill out the Kaplan registration form, because we'll email you, or we'll email the winner of who gets the book. Also, if y'all have time, would y'all please sign into the computers and register at our website, undergraduateresearch.edu. That'll keep you up to date on scholarships available, internships, those sorts of things, training session reminders, stuff like that.
And I wanted to say, she was talking about finding a professor you may want to work with or, look at their research. We have a database called Scopus here in the library, and it helps you find, you can put in an author search, put in their last name, maybe their first initial, and put in the institutions, and it could be anywhere, and find all their publications, okay? And if we don't have them full text, then get them through ILLIAD, our Interlibrary Loaner Document Delivery, so. And also finding the journals in your field, ask your librarian. Everybody has a personal one to help you, right?